Hello, and a very warm welcome. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. My name's David Roth from WPP, and it's an absolute pleasure and a delight for us to be able to welcome you to our virtual innovation tour. Of course, it would have been even better to be able to have done this physically, as we've done for the last 4 years for a group of WPP senior executives together with clients to spend 4 days in Israel to not only get to understand the startup scene, but to experience it as well, to forge relationships and to use the skills, expertise, talents, products and innovations of the Israel technology creators in their businesses to drive customer engagement and to build and develop strong and very valuable brands. Well, obviously, we can't do that physically, but we are going to do the next best thing, which is virtually. So a very warm welcome. I'd very much like to start off by thanking our partners, the Israel Embassy in London, especially Susie and Cameron, and the Israel Export Institute, Moti, Yarden, Yarin, and of course Noah, for all their help in making this possible, for both their partnership and for their collaborations. I also would very much like to thank Sarah Cousins in our team at WPP in the UK, who really has made this event possible. So thank you very much indeed, Sarah, and also from my team as well, Sheila Campbell, thank you very much indeed. We will hear a little bit later on tomorrow from Ophir, who is the Minister and Head of the Economic and Trade Mission to the UK at the Israel Embassy, who's going to join us for the pitching session, but a great thanks to him, and thank you very much indeed for your help and the help of your team. We've got a packed agenda over the course of the next 3 days, 2 hours a day. Today, we've got a fireside chat, or a virtual fireside chat, with Unilever, Porsche, Anbev, and also Hire. So a great thanks to Hadar, Amy, and to Daniel, and also to Sharon for their contribution. We're going to hear from them in a little bit later on. I'd like to welcome and thank all the Israel's innovative companies that are going to pitch and participate in this event. We have roundtables. Thanks very much to the IDC, one of Israel's leading entrepreneurial universities, for hosting those roundtables for us with their professors and experts. And you'll obviously be able to participate in all of those through the various different platforms that we're using. We also will, during those sessions, we'll be looking at various different subjects: predictive analytics, shopping, and the future of shopping, the future of ads, sustainable retail, and innovative marketing as well. We'll also have carved out, and very importantly, some quality time for individual B2B sessions, so that you can have conversations with the Israeli startup companies that you really want to meet and to have conversations with. You should have received a Zoom link with the instructions about how to connect for that for tomorrow. If you haven't, or if you don't understand the process, please do send Sarah Cousins an email, and we'll get that sorted for you, so you can understand exactly what you need to do for the one-on-one session. And of course, later on today, we're also going to have a conversation with Paragon and Erwin, and also Harry will be joining us for that. So yes, an action-packed full agenda for today, tomorrow, and Thursday. So we better get on with it. So I'd like to start our first formal session of the day, and I'd like to introduce to you Dov Moran. Dov is one of the most prominent Israeli high-tech leaders in the world, and is the managing partner of Grove Ventures. Of course, not only is Dov the managing partner of Grove Ventures, but his other claim to fame is for an invention that I think has touched everybody's lives, one of these things here, which is the memory stick, and hopefully we'll tease out of Dov what the insight was that led him to the creation of that. And I'm sure all of us say a big thank you for Dov, because it's probably got us all out of a lot of trouble. So thanks very much indeed. Dov was also the founder of M Systems, which was later acquired by SanDisk for a paltry 1.6 billion US dollars in 2006. So congratulations for that. He's also the chairman of Tower, served as the chairman of Tower Semiconductors, a developer and manufacturer of both semiconductors and integrated circuits, which his chairmanship led to a massive overhaul of that company as well. Dov was also, has been the recipient of many prizes, I'm sure more to come, but including the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award, the prestigious Edward Rene Award, and also he holds honorary doctorates from Israel's Academy Center of Law and Science, the Moscow State Technical University, and also Technion, the Israeli Institute of Technology. I could go on and on and on with Dov's achievements, but rather than that, let's hear from Dov himself. Dov, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, David. Please stop embarrassing me.
Okay, it's a deal. It's a deal. Well, listen, Dov. Let's start, I suppose, with the invention that you're clearly very famous for, and rightly so. It's said that great inventions come from either a razor-sharp customer insight, be it B2B customers or be it consumer customers, or unbelievable experiences the inventors had that suddenly makes them relook at the world. So tell us a little bit about what led you. And by the way, it's strange to think that this stick needs to be invented. It's been part of our lives for all those years, but clearly it didn't exist. What made you invent it?
Well, actually, this is much more a situation of invention that found me rather than me find the invention. But I'll tell the story. And as you say, sometimes these ideas coming from understanding customers, most of the times they are coming for understanding needs. And by the way, it's not the same. There is a great statement, I think by Henry Ford, that said if I would ask people around me at the time that there were no cars, only horses, what exactly do they need? They would tell you horses that don't shit, okay? Because, you know, the shit of horses was a terrible experience in New York. And the question was how to eliminate the smell and all this, you know, garbage that horses created. Yeah, this was the biggest issue. So the answer for innovation, yeah, do ask the customers, but it's not always coming from the customers' requirements. So my case regarding the USB flash drive is very simple. There's a story. I was actually a public company dealing with flash data storage. So every public company from time to time has to go to New York, conferences, they talk about the company, the activity, the forecast, the results. Went to New York. Now, I am, because of my poor English, I have to, every time I do a presentation, I have to go through the presentation and feel comfortable and maybe do some tweaks here and there. So that's what I did in the night flight, flying from Tel Aviv to New York. I finished my job. I saw that I'm closing my notebook, but later on I found that the mechanism of closing didn't work well, which the meaning was that the power continued to go on. And actually, when I arrived to New York, the computer power the battery was totally drained out. So, but I didn't know it. Went from the airport to the conference. Here comes my time. Coming on the stage, bring my notebook, connect the video cable, and oops, computer doesn't go on. So, okay, I know what happens. Oh, I have to connect the power cable. I connect the power cable. But this was 1998. In 1998, when your battery went to zero and you hooked the power, many times the computer needed to wake up, and it took few minutes until it really woke up. And that's what happened to me. So I'm standing in front of hundreds of people. I need to do my speech, and there's no computer. And probably you would say, okay, so probably you gave it by heart. You know how to speak. You don't need a presentation. You do need the presentation. When you are a public company, speaking in front of audience that might sell or buy shares, you have to be very, very accurate. So what's in my mind? Do I do the speech or I should not do the speech? And if I want to do the speech, I'll go back to my company, tell the guys, hey, I went to New York, but I did nothing, I went back. Sounds terrible. I always describe it as I had this, in a pictorial way, I had this feeling at this moment on the stage, which looks like that. Do you know what's that? David, can you guess?
Well, fear, I think.
That's the feeling of the sweat on your back. Hey, everybody will say, what an idiot. So as I am there, somebody at the first line, my friend, one of my friends say, hey, take my computer. He saw that my computer. Say, yeah, how can I take your computer while I cannot transfer my presentation, which is at the computer that doesn't turn on. And while we do this negotiation or talking, the computer goes on, I give my presentation, and when I finish my presentation, and there is a moment, a specific moment, the moment I finished my presentation and I took off the cables, that's the exact moment which I had in my mind, not exactly USB flash drive, but what I thought, I'll never again go to do a presentation without having a copy at my pocket. A copy that I can actually plug into any other computer, okay? And now, from that moment on, it's only connecting dots because I understood the need. I had this need. I understood what is flash, how to make flash appear like a hard drive. I knew ahead of time, before it became very popular, that USB is going to enter into computers as a replacement of another port called RS-232, for the old guys remembering the history.
I remember RS-232 very well.
Yeah. So once you understand, you actually connect dots. And I was very lucky because there was a very, very good committee that defined the USB interface. It's guys from Intel, Motorola, HP. I met few of them later on. And these guys, as smart as they were, they did not mention the concept of connecting memory through USB. So I could actually file a patent for that, okay, and make a product, and the product became quite a nice success. That's a story, nothing heroic.
All I can say is that thank goodness you had that bad experience, because it prevented us from having those experiences as well. In fact, I remember those early days of some of the developments of USB and working with the likes of Intel and Compaq and Microsoft and creating what was then defined as plug and play, or at the time we used to call it plug and pray, because 9 times out of 10 to start off with it didn't work. Anyway, things have moved on since then. Dov, and you've moved on since then. So you know, you're one of the few people who's both an entrepreneur and also an investor, an observer, a thought leader. What is the life of an entrepreneur like?
Well, I tell you the truth, I wrote a book about it. It's called 100 Doors, 100 Doors and or Introduction to Entrepreneurship. What I describe as the life of entrepreneur is a long process, constantly trying to open doors. While for any door, the probability that this door could be opened is about 1%. And I say 100 doors, it's not because when you try to open 100 doors, you are guaranteed to find an open door. But as you try to open many, many doors, your chances are becoming better. There are still not 100 doors. But one of the questions I ask in this book is what's your probabilities if you approach 100 doors, where every door, independently of the others, has 1% of probability to be open. What's your chances to find a door that would be open? It's not 100%, it's not the answer. So the life of entrepreneur is constantly trying to open doors, trying to raise money, trying to get to the right product, trying to get to the first sale. And even if when he opens a door, it doesn't bring him to the glory, heaven, whatever. It brings him into another hole with another 100 doors that he needs to try to open. So it's a lot of, it's a hard work, many disappointments, many times, many no's, many times that he's getting no's, many insults. Sometimes it's insults. And if you take things personally, that's bad because you should not. And you know, when we look at the entrepreneurs, there's a question which I'm asked many times. What are you looking at entrepreneurs? Clearly, we look, IQ is important. Means we don't invest in idiots. So IQ is important to the level. EQ is very important. EQ is the ability, emotional quotient. EQ means how good are you, the founder, in the relations you build with people, with the investors, with customers. This is very crucial as a leader. But there is one more thing which is very crucial. This is the AQ, which stands for AQ. I'll find it in a second. I know the Hebrew word for that. That's your ability to sustain bad times. Yeah. Your ability to comply, you know, with all these problems and hurdles and disappointments, and still fail and get up. Fail in a way and get up. And that's a very important feature for entrepreneurs. So that's life of entrepreneur. Now, if you are, first of all, you learn a lot in this way, you mature a lot. Not everybody succeeds. If you don't succeed, that's okay, because over the way is important as well. And that's a way where you did good, you did well, you learned a lot. You get to meet many people, you get to understand many things that otherwise you won't understand. Clearly, if you succeed, there is no all these bad times and sad moments and the disappointments. They're all nothing compared to the amazing value and happiness that success brings to you. So it's worthwhile.
So, given that as the context, why is it that there has been over the course of the last, I don't know how many years you'd say, but let's say last 15, 10 years, why has there been such a growth in the entrepreneurial activities in the tech sector in Israel? What is it about society, people, EQ, intelligence, whatever it is that is created this?
First of all, David, let me put it very clear on the table. And because I am very strong in this opinion, which is very different of the rest of what people will tell you about Israelis. David, Israelis are absolutely not smarter than any other nation. And actually, if we go into details and proofs, I can prove you that in a way they are more stupid than others, yes? And I won't use any political examples for that, but
let's not.
That's of course we are not apolitical, yeah. We don't talk politics here, but but they are not smarter. But actually, it's not an issue of Israelis or not Israelis. It's an issue of Jews, and Jews as well are not smarter than others. But Jews in general are more entrepreneurs than other nations, and the reason for that is very simple. Because for the last 2,000 years, Jews didn't have a country. They were thrown out of, they used to go to a country after several years, somebody, a king or whatever, was throwing them out. From time to time, you know, there were guys killing them. They never had the ability to own a land in a world that was very much based on agriculture. How can you survive in a world where most of the economy is agriculture, but you have no means to do agriculture, you have no land, you have no rights to own the land? In such a situation, the story is that only the entrepreneurs survived a generation after a generation after a generation, and the non-entrepreneurs are, you know, they're thrown out of history. So finally, you get a nation that entrepreneurship is very strong part of its DNA. And clearly, when you are an entrepreneur, it has its meaning in science and research. Yeah, You don't afraid to try things that others didn't try before. You don't afraid to come with theories which no one thought about or people thought about but didn't really went deeply to check. Einstein, yeah. And so therefore entrepreneurship is a very, very strong Jewish mentality. And clearly in Israel there are many, many Jews, for good and bad, yeah. I can say why it's bad, but and that's why you see a lot of entrepreneurship in Israel. And you know, I have a band. I'm playing in a band. I have my musical band. Okay, I'm playing the congas, and in the band we do perform, and I talk about entrepreneurship and high tech. So one of the songs we are singing, it's by an Israeli singer, which wrote the song maybe 30 or 40 years ago. His song goes like, everybody wants to be a singer, everybody wants to be a dancer, everybody wants to be a performer. We changed the word. Now the word is, hey, everybody wants to be entrepreneur, everybody wants to be, you know, to do high tech, everybody wants to establish his company. That's the fucking reality of this country, yes? So that's where we stand. And yeah, a lot of innovation, a lot of entrepreneurship. And now comes COVID-19. Now, you may think, hey, COVID-19 is going to be bad for that's high-tech market. No, it's exactly the opposite. COVID-19 actually emphasized the need for a digital world, emphasized the need to collect data, to analyze data, to actually use smart things like AI in order to discover new drugs, to change the whole mentality of hospitals, where people are going to be treated at hospitals, medicine that is very general, okay? Situations where a physician do collect his own knowledge based on his history and can actually do treatment based on what he knows. What does he know? He knows nothing. There are hundreds of thousands of physicians worldwide, which they collectively have a lot of knowledge. This knowledge has to be gathered, collected, used by all. So, hey, we are in a new era of digital health and a lot of entrepreneurship that relates to generally digital world. And Israel is the right place for exploding, have this explosion of companies and startups.
And so I'd like to explore a little bit about I suppose, your Grove venture life and experience. Because it's one thing being the entrepreneur and knocking on all those 100 doors. It's another thing when the 100 doors that are being knocked on, a lot of them are yours in terms of.
I'm the door. Now I'm the door.
You're the door, exactly. Yes, yeah, you are the door.
The guy knocking, and you know, sometimes they just didn't answer. Sometimes they open the door, they whoosh, they smash a pool of cold water on me. And now I became the door. Hey, that's great. I love it.
So what is it? We have an expression in the UK. It's a poacher turned gamekeeper. What's it like being on the other side of the door? And what is it that you're looking at? I mean, obviously, your venture fund is not there as a charity. It's there to generate an economic return for its investors. What are you looking for from innovations, people? Teams that you say, actually, I will invest in this or I won't invest in the other?
So, David, when I did this transition from entrepreneur to investor, actually in Israel, I got a lot of criticism because in Israel, if you look at the majority of the venture capital funds, they are structured of people that were not entrepreneurs. They come from legal, they come from finance, actually very, very small amount, almost totally insignificant, almost zero, came from technology. And the trend was, hey, investment is expertise. You need to come from finance to understand numbers, which is full of shit. Because practically, if you invest in an early stage, what's really important is to understand people. That's very, very correct. But you need to understand the technology. You need to understand where exactly you invest. Is it feasible Is it not feasible? Is it going to cost $6 million or $60 million to get the first product working? And moreover, you need to understand the people and the ecosystem of the people. You need to understand the entrepreneurs because they have such a tough way to go that, you know, they need some support, they need help, they need understanding. And if you look at the good funds in America, Andreessen Horowitz, Mark Andreessen, Ben Horowitz, which is my twin brother, he calls me as his twin brother. You look at the Khosla Ventures, Milot Khosla is the founder of Sun Microsystem. These are a bunch of guys that actually went through the experience of knocking many, many doors until they became a door. It took me time to actually convince that I can do this change, that I'm doing this change. Actually, I did have investments before I established the fund that today are very, looking backward now, I can see that they were very, very successful. I didn't know it when I went to raise the fund, but it wasn't simple. The whole transition wasn't simple until we raised the money we planned to raise, which was, we target $100 million, we raised $110 million. Nowadays, looking at the backward, you know, there are numbers. You can prove things by numbers. So stories are great, but how about numbers? The IRR of my first fund, Gov1, is 55%. I'll repeat
Not bad for a day's work.
IRR of 55%. And the IRR of the second fund is even better, but the time is too short to really judge by IRR. First fund is almost 6 years, so it's much easier to look at these numbers. But I do believe that we came with a very good model. 5 partners, by the way. We don't look for how to make money by management fees. A lot of work, a lot of involvement into the companies we invest in. And there are great results, which give me great feeling. And my feeling today is, hey, instead of establishing one company or 2 companies at the same time, 2 companies is bad, by the way, do establish one if you want to establish companies. But instead of being involved in very small number of companies, with the fund, with my partners, we can actually invest in several companies, be involved in all these companies. I'm helping all my partners' companies as well. They help me as well. And create an impact which is much larger than being an entrepreneur building only one company. So that's, for me, it's a very natural step. In addition to the fact that I can bring into this partnership all my experience, relations, connections, scarves. At my back, I have many, many scarves. And of course, all the relations are built through the time, and this is very, very crucial sometimes to companies at a very early stage of their lives.
But what is it that you're looking for that enables you to say, this idea we'll back and this idea we won't?
So basically, it's very simple. And actually, I think that most of the funds will tell you the same, similar story. It's very simple. We look for only 3 things. By the way, in Israel, everybody, you have to divide everything by 3. That's, you know, that's something everybody studies in the army, yeah? There is a raffle, connected to 3 stages. There is a platoon, 3, whatever. Anything is divided by 3. So in our case of a venture capital fund, it's the triple P. We call it triple P. People. First of all is people. You look at the people. They have to be the right people. And by the way, when I talk about people, it has to be team. When somebody comes to us alone, we tell him, hey, listen, you are a great guy, you are smart, wonderful idea. Find partners. Come to us, you know, maybe a month from now, maybe 2 months from now. But we want to see you coming with partners. Why? Because you will not succeed by yourself. You need to, we want to see how do you succeed to find partners to this idea. So it's people. As I mentioned before, not the IQ, but it's IQ, EQ, AQ, okay? But clearly, we want to see, are they suitable? Can they do the job? How are they working together? Do they really understand what they are doing? That's people. The second thing is product. We look at the product, we look at technology, and the idea, we don't invest in anything which, we have better price, cost, which will be 20% of competition, it doesn't matter. We have a product that is 20% faster than competition, it doesn't matter. We want to see product or technology that really will have an impact on the market. And that's crucial. If it's technology, we want to see patents. We want to see how difficult is the solution compared to what others are doing. Differentiation is crucial. The third thing is potential, because maybe some ideas are good and some guys are wonderful, but if it's a small market, it can be great as a small company, and they should get money from angels or put their own money in, but that doesn't fit a venture capital fund, which tries to build great success stories. So we look at the potential, the market size, and the issue is you have to have all the three. If you have 2 out of the 3, there is no investment. It's a discipline which is very much involved in what you do as a venture capital fund, and the issue is people, product, potential. That's it.
Now, I mean, it sounds basic, but underneath that, there's
David, you can now establish a venture capital fund.
I'm off. Give me another 5 minutes, and I'm there. Having gone through that process, decided to invest. How difficult is it along that road? Because clearly, not every investment succeeds in the way that either the founders or yourself as a venture capital fund expect. How easy or difficult is it to pull the plug, to stop funding something that you have funded for a while, and have invested both emotional capital in and physical capital in?
So David, I must tell you, we are very, very lucky in a way. By the way, luck is generated by very hard work, of course, but we are very lucky. We did invest until now in both funds in 24 companies. Out of the 24 companies, we terminated one company a relatively short time after investing. It took us about less than a year and a half to understand that the market is incorrect. The guys are not the right guys. We have to plug out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pull out the plug. And 2 companies we sold, and the other 21 companies are moving ahead very, very nicely. So we don't really go a lot through experience of terminating companies. Clearly, when you terminate a company, it is painful. You actually feel very close to the entrepreneurs. The company which we terminated wasn't mine. It was one of my partners' companies, but I tried to help, and I met the entrepreneurs many, many times, and I try to sit together with them. Where can they take their invention? Maybe other areas, other directions, other stuff. When it doesn't succeed, you almost feel as bad as them, because you make yourself their colleague, their partner. And yeah, it is a very bad feeling, because they establish a company, you invested in a company, we became partners, and then, hey, it doesn't work out. It's a big disappointment. And I know about myself, when we took the decision together with them, by the way, we didn't enforce it. We took the decision to terminate. I didn't sleep a few nights. I thought, hey, why didn't we do that? Or why did we put some of this money that we invested trying to send one of the guys to America? And, you always think backward about the mistakes you have done. Could you eliminate them? Could you do other stuff? Hey, it's difficult to terminate companies. I did in my life before the fund. I did establish a few companies. Not each one of them was a success. And some of them I need to terminate. Yeah, you are taking it very seriously. When I closed my companies, Modu is one example, I didn't sleep nights. I was so hooked to what went wrong, what could I do and I didn't do. what could go better if I would be a bit more lucky and stuff like that. But you have to overcome and wash your face and open the door, open the window. Hey, it's a new day. Let's begin something new. That's all.
Now, before I rush off to open my venture capital fund with your three things, I'd like to know a little bit about where I should invest. So from your perspective at the moment, where is the smart money investing? And where do you see the opportunities? Clearly, the world has changed considerably over the last 16 months or so. Where do the new opportunities lie?
So I do believe that the most important stuff that the world is going to experience is things that relate, I mentioned, the digital health, how the treatment of patients and treatment of sickness and treatment of viruses should totally change from what it is today. Hospitals, people come to Israel and I had an experience of mostly Japanese guys coming to Israel, very concerned of the political situation, war with Gaza, and they came to Israel like, hey, by the way, how many people are dying here in a war in a year? Small fraction of the number of people dying here from car accidents, and how many people are dying here from car accidents? Much less than people dying in hospitals from a virus or bacteria, actually, that are getting at the hospital, where they went to the hospital for totally something else. That's the situation, by the way, not just in Israel, worldwide. But still, so Japanese guys are coming to Israel, and I like very much Japanese culture and Japanese people, but they always come very concerned. Dov-san, we heard about these fights and Gaza, where should we go? What is the unsafe places in Israel? What's my answer to them? Don't go to the hospitals. The most dangerous place in Israel you can go to is a hospital, because there is a high chance, relatively, that you can form something really minor, but you don't get out of there. All of it has to be changed. It cannot continue like that. A virus like COVID-19, the way it was handled worldwide was very stupid. With the right sensors, it could be identified ahead of time. The right medicine, the right vaccine could be actually generated on a real-time basis, very, very fast. If we would have the means, we will have the means, because we are progressing. We are constantly progressing and having a better world. And the meaning of better world at some time was, hey, we do have computers. Hey, we do have communication. That's great, amazing. Hey, we do have cloud. Amazing stuff can be done with cloud. Now we have to move to, hey, we do have smart medicine, smart health services. That's the future, I believe.
Now, Dov, we've only got a few minutes left. We could continue much longer, but unfortunately, time is up against us. A lot of people watching this maybe haven't had the opportunity of working with young entrepreneurial startup companies. What's your advice for them on both sides of the spectrum, in a sense? Because you've been an entrepreneur and you're investing in entrepreneurial businesses. What's your advice to them as to how they get the best out of the relationships and the companies that they decide to work with?
Okay, it's two different questions. I'll try to answer both of them. If you are a young guy that wants to become an entrepreneur, my advice to such entrepreneur, very opposite of what Peter Thiel is telling, by the way, is go to school, learn, go to university, pick a subject, do your second degree, do your PhD, whatever, take a subject and really go deeply to understand this specific area, become an expert in this area, establish a company to actually make it commercial afterward. because I truly look for things that are impacting the world. I really want to see things that are changing and bringing good stuff, and not another software that does advertisement or software that does some moving this to this or here to there without a true real value. So my thinking is I'm looking for impacting the world. I do well. You do well if you learn something, understand something that truly creates a change. That's my advice to young people. My advice to investors, if you talk about angels, guys, don't, if you have tons of money and you don't care about the money and you look at it as a hobby, that's great. Invest here, invest there. That's wonderful. You may make money. Most of the chances, if you invest too enough, you will lose your money because you don't have the means to be a good investor. Good investor need to see, first of all, the best deals. The best deals are not going to angels. They're going to the right VCs. It's very rare that a good bunch of guys, smart guys with great idea would go to an angel and take his money. They would prefer to go to good funds. I'm not talking about Grove, but Sequoia, Andreessen Horowitz, Bessemer, and Grove, if it's Israel. So as an angel, you don't get to see the good opportunities. And then you need to do a really thorough due diligence. How many angels are really doing due diligence? You know, they listen to the entrepreneur and say, hey, it sounds like a great idea. Let me put $200,000. Hey, give $200,000 to a charity. That's a much better way to use your money. And yes, here there are stories of angels that are succeeding and doing very, very well. But you know, there are stories about guys who are buying a lottery ticket and they make millions. Are you supposed to make your money by buying lottery tickets? Not really. It's very, very similar, guys. That's the story.
Well, Dov, I'm afraid we're going to have to call it a halt here. Time has run out for this particular conversation. I'm sure people are very interested in learning more. Of course, they can read your book. I'm sure that's available at all good bookstores, including Amazon. But it's been a pleasure and delight to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for sharing your experiences and, most important, your insights with us. But for the moment, Dov Moran, the managing partner of Grove Ventures, and the person that's managed to get us out of trouble numerous times with our memory stick of your invention. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thanks, Dov.
Thank you very much, guys. Bye-bye.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed. And now we're going to hand over to the next session. Thank you very much indeed for joining this one.